Hi everybody, welcome to Monday, and I'm going to jump right into this video because we're going to talk about OnlyFans. I'll spare the boss fight stuff updates for tomorrow. I want to get right into this subject because those of you who are been around this channel for a while, who didn't just come to yell at me over He-Man, know that I used to interview people in the adult industry for a living. I believe very, very much in sex worker freedom and legitimacy of sex work. And also internet privacy and freedom and all that stuff. And yes, obviously there are checks and balances with this, but this OnlyFans thing is the end result of a bunch of poorly thought out rush job, think of the children decisions that led to this. So if you like this sort of video, I don't know what YouTube's going to do with this. It's one of their not advertiser friendly subjects potentially. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. Now, for those who have been living under a rock, what's going on with OnlyFans is that OnlyFans is no longer allowing adult online content. They are calling it. See, the problem right at the beginning is the wording. Nobody knows what it means. Okay? This idea that basically hardcore sex is not allowed. That's not quite accurate. Online porn has been a thing for a while, but OnlyFans seems to... So what this means is that the nudie shots are still going to be okay, which is kind of the backbone of OnlyFans. But anything... See, we don't know. It seems like anything more hardcore than Playboy is no longer going to be allowed. And let me start there, because it is just a fact that early adopter tech thrives on sex work. Wherever the sex workers go, that particular technology, that particular upload service, that distribution content, it will tend to win whatever battle, competition, competitive marketplace thing is out there. It's just early adopters tend to be young, often white men, youngish, not kids, but 20s, 30s, right? Open to new experiences, but with enough money, so maybe pushing 30s, 40s, but men with disposable income. This is the porn market, right? This is just facts. Learn that from Jessie Jane, the former Digital Playground adult star. Interesting factoid, Jessie was very, very up on her tech. I love talking to her about that stuff. So credit where credit's due. But so these technologies tend to let porn on their service when it benefits them, and then when they start making real money and people start going, think of the children, then they kick the sex workers out. It's happened to Tumblr and Patreon and this, that. The next thing, now Patreon insists it was their payment partners that made them make the switch. I have no reason not to believe them. More on that in a bit. The infamous one was Backpage. Backpage just got done because, Backpage, the accusation there was that they were actually soliciting prostitution through their site. And that is the core of the pressure on these credit card companies. Now, some people will cite the fact MasterCard says it did not talk to OnlyFans. This is something of a weasel statement. Hold that thought. Let me get into FOSTA SESTA. What? Before then. because FOSTA SESTA, I was concerned about this bill when it was passed. Yes, it was passed with wide bipartisan support, ironically, under President Donald Trump. Ironically, because we all know Trump engages in the service of sex workers. Allegedly. But this bill, FOSTA SESTA. FOSTA means Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. That was the House bill. The Senate bill was called SESTA, the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act. It was hailed as a victory for sex trafficking victims. And in a way, it's true. It made it harder to traffic people. The problem was in the wording of the bill. The wording of the bill went after Section 230. And Section 230, we know, means that websites are not responsible, that are just platforms, not content creators. If they just distribute the stuff, they're not responsible for what people post. It's user-generated content. That's Section 230. But the sweeping language of the bill means that illegal sex work, which is what it's designed to prevent, what does that mean? It varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Some places have legal prostitution. Some places have decriminalized prostitution. Some jurisdictions, the crime is on the John, right? The crime is engaging the service as a prostitute, not being the prostitute. It's all over the place. So what does illegal online activity mean? It means whatever's illegal anywhere they might not be able to do, right? The bill doesn't do anything to target illegal sex trafficking. Sorry, the law. It's not just a bill. It doesn't targeting trafficking directly. What it did is that it made online sex work harder to do, even consensual online sex work. Okay. This led to a rebranded, moral majority or media, one of those right-wing oh my God, think of the children groups, rebranding to this anti-sex trafficking thing. That put pressure on the credit card companies. I'm blanking on the bullshit name they gave themselves now. But that put pressure on the credit card companies. The credit card companies then tightened their restrictions. And this is why I'm calling bullshit on MasterCard, going, we didn't have a conversation with them. We never said we were pulling their funding. MasterCard recently, April 14th, 2021, so fairly recently, they upgraded their rules regarding illegal adult content. And they enhanced the requirements, which would mean that everyone on OnlyFans would have to have documented age and identity verification for all people depicted and uploading the content. Obviously, they don't have that now. A content review process prior to publication. So someone would have to watch all the porn that went up on OnlyFans. Complaint resolution process that addresses illegal or non-consensual content within 7 business days. Appeals process allowing for any person depicted to request their content be removed. It seems like OnlyFans read those new rules and were just like, we can't. We don't have ironically, the bandwidth for that. We can't do that and make money. We have to make a choice. I will link. Hopefully I won't forget, but I will link to this. But this is on mastercard.com under their news section. So this is not somebody reporting something. This is coming straight from MasterCard where I'm getting this. So what's happened? Basically, the US is acting as the moral arbiters of the whole world. And even up here in Canada, we do not have the same anti-sex position that the US does. That doesn't mean we're pro-human trafficking, though we're a very large country. Therefore, internal human trafficking is a problem in this country. Got that directly from law enforcement. So you start going citation needed on that one. No, I cannot tell you my source on that one. But so basically, yes, the problem with straight up legalizing prostitution is it does show an uptick in human trafficking. I guess they're applying that similarly to online sex on the internet. The compromise we have to come to is if somebody's like a legitimate consensual sex worker, they should be allowed to do that. Now, the proponents of FOSTA, SESTA, and things like that work on the assumption that, well, no one in their right mind would want to do that job, and you just can't say that. A lot of the people I interviewed at the high-end companies back in the day when I did a show called Ed and Red's Night Party that was totally cool to show on television in Canada after 11 o'clock at night. We had, you can show topless women in Canada because of our like breastfeeding protection laws. So as long as it's in a non-sexualized manner, meaning no sex acts, even then, it's still after the watershed hour. We showed like what were called baby blue movies, which were basically softcore porn. They were our lead-in on Friday nights. Or were we their lead-in? Yeah, the news was our lead. Yikes. Okay, the news was our lead-in. I was getting confused, but yeah. So, our show had to be heavily, heavily edited when it ran in the U.S. Because there were just some things you couldn't show on U.S. television. Free speech capital of the world, right? No, not in real terms. So they had to cut 3 minutes out of every one of our shows, which was fine because they had 3 minutes more commercials than we did up here too. They blurred things. They had to heavily edit the shows. So yes, people in the US who watched me on G4 back in the day, that was not the original version of the show. You missed out on some thirstier stuff. I stand by what I did on that show. One of the things that made me interested in it is, I was coming out of a very bad experience in women's studies university program where I was having sort of a crisis of faith going, this is all kind of bullshit, and a bunch of people who have never done things judging it. Let's try it. Let's see if we can make feminist adult content. Let's see if we can make stuff where everybody feels good about it. Everything is safe, mostly sane and consensual. Let's just go for it. And what was interesting is that they knew we were beating Leno and Letterman in the ratings back then on Friday nights. But all they cared about back then was 18 to 34 male. Nobody checked the female numbers. And when I took over as co-host, the female numbers ended up being on par with the male numbers. So we basically doubled our ratings. And nothing else changed. That was the thing. We still had all the adult content. We still had all the porn stars, but it just made a big difference that there was a woman there being allowed to react, go, hey, hold up, certain things not cool, but then other things were cool. I mean, we did episodes entirely devoted to fetish where, I painted my toes on camera and squeak balloons and we sort of went through them. We did not shy away from that. And that was real fun on the background check when I did promotional modeling for Disney. Let me tell you, that was a fun conversation, but they let me through. That kind of thing is not allowed on certain, FCC airways, because FCC has straight up guidelines. It's not community standards. And that's the big difference in Canada than the US. In Canada, if you can do it on the street, you can do it on television. It allows our media to evolve with the times, right? So the minute women were allowed to just whip out a boob to breastfeed their kid, or for any other reason, it's a hot day, go ahead, you can do it on television. You know, you can't flat out do a sex act in public, which is what FOSTA SESTA claims is all it's doing. Except pornography is not illegal. Let me say that clearer. Pornography is legal. Prostitution is not in the US, but pornography is legal. I think for the most part. I don't know if there are still sodomy laws on books in certain parts of the US. But that's the thing. If it's illegal in one state, boom, it's not legal anymore on the internet. That's crap. That means that the internet is beholden to the most backward, Puritan, anti-sex, anti-gay, anti-trans, so on and so forth, state in the union. What happened to maximum freedoms for the maximum number of people? And that's what is at the core of the problem here. And I'm going to make this really quick, okay? This is all based on certain religious ideas of what is appropriate for people to do. And it really hinges heavily on the idea of acceptable roles for women. Because let's face it, with this whole anti-trafficking thing, the vast majority of people trafficked are women. It's not that men aren't trafficked, but apparently men are more likely to be trafficked for manual labor than sex work. I don't want to leave out that it does happen. It's just overwhelmingly women who are trafficked. So this is about the idea that because women are victims, the majority of victims in this way, no woman would possibly agree to do these very same things. But that's getting it all backward. The whole reason that, these women are being exploited is because they're having sex against their will, which I wouldn't even claim is having sex. That is an act of violence. These women who are just, exhibitionists and like being watched and can make money at it. And, anybody gives a shit to see that, good for them. I don't think they should be stopped. It is not saving someone's soul to bar them from an activity. In order for something to be virtuous, in order for something to be moral, it must be a conscious choice. It must be that person choosing to do that. If they're just forced not to by society, it's not moral. You're not making them a better person. You're not saving their immortal soul. You're just restricting freedoms, and that in and of itself, the Torah, at least, I don't know how the Bible interprets it, but the big difference between humans and the seraphim and everybody else is free will. We interpret man being created in God's own image is free will because we don't know what God looks like. that was a Christian painting thing. God has no image. God is unknowable in terms of Kabbalistic stuff. But so image or aspect is free will. So if you remove someone's free will, you're taking them further away from the divine and from the sublime, not moving them towards it. Right? Now, granted, other people, there are many different types of religion and many different subsections of religion. That is my faith. That is my ethical code. That is my moral underpinning, that freedom actually is godliness. Freedom actually is sublime. You must provide a very good reason. Basically, you can't do anything else to restrict somebody's freedoms. That, I believe that wholeheartedly. And that means I end up having to defend a lot of things I wouldn't do. That's how I get into a lot of trouble. It's like, look, I'm not saying I'd handle something a certain way another person did, but they didn't actually do anything wrong. Because the minute we start down this rigid moralizing path where it's all emotional knee-jerks, we lose that ethical underpinning and we start taking away people's freedoms. And that's what I think with this OnlyFans thing. I know there are people who don't like the idea of OnlyFans. I don't go on OnlyFans. There's no real compelling reason for me to. I don't see anything inherently wrong with OnlyFans. It was capitalism working. People had things that other people wanted to pay for. Great. I really don't think there is much difference, make of this what you will, than people wanting to watch me talk about video games or talking about these tech issues or anything like that, and somebody wanting to pay to watch dildo play. It's still an image on a screen. It's different content. They have their skills. I have mine. I think I would be too clumsy to do those sort of shows, right? So this is about taste over freedom. And something being in poor taste is not enough to restrict a freedom. This isn't OnlyFans going, we want to go in a different direction just on their own. This is coercion from credit card companies changing their policies, and probably the most one that they have to watch everything that gets up. They can't just go, okay, this is a trusted partner, so they're going to be able to upload. We've age verified them and everything like that. They can upload what they want. No, they have to watch everything. It's just not possible. That's a lot of porn. MasterCard is being disingenuous with its statement. And the minute you start getting those sort of disingenuous cover their ass statements, follow that. That means the credit card companies are being pressured by people too. And everybody's just sort of in a... These are the sorts of things that are tangible. These are the sorts of things that people understand. Are they polarizing? Yes, but every single one of these that happens, we peel off more people going, this shit just ain't right. Make no mistake, this is AntiWomen. Because how many guys do you know who make a living off OnlyFans? Remember what I said about early adopters and porn consumption? Like, really? There are probably some men that do well, yes, and some women who subscribe to certain OnlyFans, but let's face it, the vast majority of successful OnlyFans content creators are women, and the vast majority of the consumers are men. There's nothing wrong with that. But denying these women their livelihood because of things they're not involved with, they're not trafficking anybody, and they're not trafficked. They shouldn't be punished for the sins of another. That's not right. We need to find a better solution here. And I am looking at possibly doing an interview series with some of these creators. I've one that's maybe, if you or anybody else, like if you know somebody who might want to be interviewed or something like that, please contact me. Not in comments. I may not see them. Send me a message. But this is AntiWomen. This is anti-female business owners. It is. These women weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't doing anything illegal. But one state that they don't live in, how is that not tyranny? How is that not just restriction of, liberty, but restriction of expression? I don't see any way that this fits sort of the greater ideals of, the actual experiment of America, and not the America that a lot of people live in, where it's do as I say, not as I do, and freedom for me, but not for thee. I mean, that's totally what this is. It's just some people find this stuff distasteful. Some people find this stuff makes them feel insecure. Because a lot of people feel like they have to compete with porn stars to be seen as desirable, and it's not the same thing at all, right? Like even porn stars themselves have separate private lives than the things they do professionally. Everybody sets their own rules, but there are boundaries in their head of what's work, what's me, right? I like the fact that people are talking about it. I like the fact that services as vanilla as the CBC are running headlines that say OnlyFans banned just the latest in campaign against online adult content online. Industry watchers say the byline is such platforms grow on the backs of sex workers, then force them out, says advocate. The fact that that's on the CBC, which is so milquetoast, vanilla, and old people in Canada, just shows where we're at. Now, America's way behind us on that score. Way behind us. Currently, neither party in the US truly believes in women's freedom in this regard. And that's a problem. And that's something that people can stand up against. Unfortunately, the media likes to cherry pick who is identified as a feminist, and the sex negative feminists tend to get put on because they fit the stereotype that's convenient at the time. People like me, who say problematic things at times in service of a greater first principle, get frozen out as not really a feminist, cool chick okay with sexism, literally the devil. You know, they fling these words and, oh, she's not real, she doesn't count. You're de-womaning me, guys. Like, you know, I shouldn't say guys, it's other women. But, you know, I use guys as a gender neutral term. You may have just noticed. But, yeah, they're basically taking away my woman card because I'm not anti-sex. And you see some of these people now struggling to go, oh, no, this is pressure. This is not good. But I'm sorry. Anti-sex feminists, people who waffled, people who went after depictions of like sexy video game characters and all that stuff based on morality or some sort of harm argument, as opposed to let's just please do this smart and let's not overdo it. You know, the people that just wanted it gone, there were no good examples, it was all bad. I'm sorry, they contributed to this. They are part of the churn, part of the howling that just grew and grew and grew and grew until not just Republicans with their, you know, religious right base, but Democrats who wanted to be able to say, I am a feminist or I am an ally. They were in lockstep on this one. And it ended up hurting women. Yes, a certain subset of women that patriarchal misogynistic norms say are less worthy of, you know, the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but they are women, and you can't just unwoman someone because you don't like what they do. And if you want any proof that something is actually not truly feminist and certainly not humanist and certainly not egalitarian, does it hurt women? Does it hurt an entire class of women? Does it throw women into poverty? Does it limit women's freedoms and women's rights to be whole people and whole people have sex? Sometimes for money. If, you know, the answer to any of those questions is yes, it infringes on those rights, well, that's not egalitarian, that's not just, that's not humanist, that's not feminist. And I know some of you is like, bad feminism, bad, and you freak out on me about that. You don't have to be a feminist to accept the point. The point here is me not advocating that feminist is good. The point is me here advocating that these people who label themselves feminists and then go after booth babes and grid girls and Mortal Kombat characters and cover all of you up, don't show ankle, right? Those people are not in fact feminist because nothing about that secures greater equality for women. It's hypocritical. The only true feminism is sex positive feminism, because anti-sex feminism, sex negative feminism holds women back. Period. End of story. And I'm going to wrap there. Interested in your comments. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.